So let's dive into number 2, creating straight lines. We'll come in, zoom in, and you can see with this Christmas tree shape, very simple, straight lines, but it's still done very nicely in that sort of polygonal style, very simple colors. And so I'll hit, hit Z for my zoom tool, of course, kind of zoom into what I need, space bar around, hit my pen tool, and start making shapes. And again, I'll always make complete shapes. And once you start drawing, you realize, wait, it's kind of hard to trace something when you have a fill. I could come over here and hit the little flip-flop button, but Shift X. The regular X just flip-flops what is in the front. Shift X will flip-flop the entire fill and stroke, so I don't even have to change using my pen tool. All right, first shape, then I'll just hit Shift X. And for right now, I'm not going to worry about does it perfectly cover the dots. I'll finish that at the end. All right, hit P for the pen tool. Or actually, what I'll do is hit the eyedropper, I for eyedropper. Just sample that color. All right, I'll go to the next one, P for pen tool. And again, I'm not being super precise right now. I'm going to adjust all the points, but I'm also not going to worry about being right on these lines. Shift X to flip-flop my fill and stroke. Because I'm going to overlap them a bit, right? These two shapes here, eyedropper, a different color, is, you can see these two shapes overlap, and that's perfectly fine. They don't have to, on my camera, don't have to perfectly butt up. They can overlap on top of each other. Okay, back to my pen tool, the letter P. I'll come in here. Oops. Accidentally, there was a path here by mistake, so I'm going to delete that, probably from an earlier attempt. And it looks like, oh, I see, I might have made something earlier and I did delete it. So I'm just going to, again, just select it, delete. Maybe I'll start down here, come up. You notice it's, I think my snap is on, so it's trying to snap to everything. Go, and then I'll hit Shift X. And again, a little gap, but I can fix that at the end. And then one more. All right, pen tool. Cool. All the way around. Oops. There we go. I'm just selecting the shape and hitting I for eyedropper to grab the right colors. All right, and now I need to sort of adjust this. And one of the issues is right at the top here. I have all these points, right, and they're not lining up. There's a nice command called average that will take kind of all the points you have selected, even if they're across a bunch of different shapes, and average their distance so they're right on top of each other. So what I can do here, now you have to pay attention. You have to use the right one. I'm going to use the direct select tool, letter A, click off so that nothing is selected, and then I'm just going to do a little box selection, and it'll grab all the points, but nothing else. If you have anything else selected, it's going to make one big pile of mess. And I'll go up to Object, Path, and I'll say Average. I'm not going to use Join because I'm not trying to create shapes out of all these points. I just want them to be on top of each other. And you can pick horizontal, vertical, or both. I'll go ahead and say both. There you go. And now they're all on top of each other, and I can move them all at the same time. Kind of cover up that pattern. All right, much nicer, much cleaner. I could have done that by hand, but that would have been, really tedious. So that average command is really handy. And I'll come down here, do a little fix up. All right, that's good. Now for the next one, it's just, I threw a couple of these mazes into this these projects just because it just requires a lot of pen tooling. But the one thing I want to point out is you can see I'm, just drawing straight lines, just want to, kind of practice just getting the points perfect. And you see it's very easy to kind of get off, right? I'm not having straight lines. Of course, I'm kind of doing it, and that doesn't look perfect and angular. So if you hold down Shift when you're drawing straight lines, it's going to constrain to 45 and 90-degree angles. And it just so happens that this all these lines are about 45 degrees. So I'm just going to hold down Shift, and that way, oops, Shift X just to flip-flop my full stroke. You can see now I can just focus on positioning. And, again, this might seem a little redundant, but I want you to really pay attention to, is my path in the is my anchor points, my paths in the dead center, right? Just this type of exercise, because it's about control. And you can see my pen isn't even, I don't have to worry about my pen being like right on the point, because I'm holding down shift. All right, so I'm gonna go faster, which means I might get a little sloppier. All right, but just paying attention to how your path is in here. It's not getting too close to the walls. They're electrified. All right, this is the point where you can kind of fast forward through me doing this. Unless you're fascinated by watching people use the pen tool. All right, and I escaped the labyrinth of pen tool death. All right, very simple, but again, remember, hold down shift, okay? One more here. Again, just sampling colors from this sort of polygonal cantaloupe. So I'll hit my pen tool. Again, just paying attention to where my points are. And making sure you do a complete shape. Oops, you can see I missed. Wasn't paying attention, so I'll just go to my last one. All right, now this is interesting. It's not letting me join this last one because somehow I sent my my green stroke behind everything. So I'm just going to click off, kind of click back on, try to grab. Interesting. There you go. Hit Command Y. Okay, when in doubt, hit Command Y. Somehow, let's see here. Let's kind of solve this issue. Bring to front. Nope, that didn't do it. So I think what happened is right. Again, I'm going to let the camera run here because I want you to. I'm going to figure out what this is, and even though I have this, let's first, when in doubt, it looks like everything's on the same layer, but let me just check out my layers. And okay, that's what's happened. The cantaloupe is on the what's called the interaction layer, and I didn't realize I was on the locked assets layer. So I'm going to go ahead and just move that shape with using this little dot up to the top. All right, and now I can position it and finish the path. All right, turn on the camera for a second to make a point about that. It's going to happen. You're going to have things out of stacking order, or you're going to have things on layers. 9 times out of 10, it's either stacking order or layers. That 1/10 of the time is just weirdness, and you end up, wanting to throw your computer out the window. But for the most part, always check your layers, and you can pay attention to what layers you're on, because usually every layer will have a different path color. If I double click or go to my layers and double click on a layer, I can actually change that color here to, light blue is usually the default. But if you ever, realize your path is red or something, that's just because you're on a different layer. So now I'll kind of sample color. Yeah, probably from that. And of course, expand it so it covers up those dots. Now, in reality, I should probably just unlock everything and delete those pink dotted lines. But I'm just going to leave it like this for now. All right. Now this happens a lot. You can see like it just gets a little too pointy. And so I will take my path here, and if I can go to my stroke panel and sort of change if I had a stroke on it. So in this case, sometimes I'll just come in and the wrong thing selected. Just add another point, and so instead of having like a full point there, I'll just kind of have 2 shapes, and often that looks better than having something really, really pointy. All right, that'll do. Continuing on into the mountains, This one's trickier than you might realize because one is I have everything grouped together, so it's easy to move it around, and we have the mountains stacked sort of in front of the sky, and then we have the clouds in front of the mountains, but behind these mountains. So stacking order is going to be very important for this one. So what we're going to do is double click on our group of objects to go into that group, right? It just happens to be a clipping group because we had it propped up. And you can see I can very quickly, there's the sky, there's the clouds. Clouds are nicely grouped together. And I currently have the pattern here locked so I don't accidentally click on it because that does get annoying when you're tracing. But first, I'll hit my pen tool, and I'll just have some type of gradient already preloaded on my brush or on my pen tool, so I'll just leave that alone. Hit Shift X to flip-flop my fill and stroke very quickly. Make these mountains. And again, notice I'm just it's going to be stacked behind all that, so I don't have to worry about this bottom. And then I'm just going to fill it. Let's use that color, and then make it a little bit. This is kind of in between the two. Maybe it's something a little darker. Something like that. And I need to send it to behind these mountains. But the problem is, if I just hit Command left bracket to start sending it backwards, there's a lot of trees. Each one of these trees is sort of a separate shape. And so if I hit Command left bracket, you can see it's just slowly sending it back in the order. And so what I want to do is I want to go up to Object, Arrange, and say Send to Back. Okay? Now when you do that, it sent it all the way to the back, and it's behind my sky. So now I just have to play the game of just keep sending things to the back. Use my direct select tool to select the sky, or my entire selection tool because it's separate. And we'll say arrange, send to back. And now those mountains popped up. Okay. And you kind of have to do this a lot where you're sending things backwards and forwards, and you can go to your layers and track it down in your layers, but that's not that's assuming you don't have 1,000 shapes on that layer all labeled. So getting used to sending things all the way to the front and all the way to the back is good. Okay. So now we just need to kind of unlock these dotted lines because they're kind of obnoxious. But at first, oh yeah, I'll just pen tool over the front ones. All right, and these are just kind of supposed to be like, light hitting the mountains. Make that a little bit brighter. Highlight. Cover up all that pattern, and basically just go and do that for each one of those. But then at some point you're going, okay, I need to unlock and get rid of that dotted pattern. So I'm going to hit unlock all, and it does unlock everything. So I have to click off, and then I can click back on. Now I have the pattern selected. Just delete it, and then you're good to go. Okay, so it's just pen tooling in your stacking order inside of an object. All right, now we just do it one more time. Here we are, kind of have this iceberg, and I'll do the same thing. Double click on it. Oops. There we go. Double click on it to go into the group. There we go, and then I can just pen tool. Again, notice it has start new path. And I'll sample one of these colors. Go. Again, I can make this bigger, or I can unlock that path. Go. Cases is kind of, there you go. That'll work. All right. And again, you don't have to be, you can overlap these shapes. So I'll just do another one. drop sample that color. And what, oops. I made those pink paths to trace really vibrant so you would notice them, and then I really create a lot of extra work because now we're having to cover them. Right. Simple enough, and now just adjust the lighting work and then double click to get out. So just, a series of exercises, just mastering drawing straight lines. Again, it's just the more you do this, the easier it will come, and the more you'll get used to sending shapes forward and backwards, turning snap off and on, just all the things that will normally get in the way, they will dissolve, and with practice.